Good morning, everyone. So thank you, firstly, for taking the time to start your week, listening to me talk for a bit. What we're going to kind of go through today is a workshop on AI implementation and how you can actually kind of get some quick wins from your business and your workflow today. But before we do start, I want to kind of know what everyone in the room's experience is with AI. So could everyone put their hand up and leave their hand up until the kind of question doesn't apply to you? So firstly, who here knows about AI, what AI is in general? Put your hands up if you know what that is. Okay, good. Who uses AI on a daily basis? Okay, cool. Who pays for more than one subscription to an AI tool? Interesting. Okay, and then who would kind of classify themselves as like a power user, who's built a dashboard, a landing page, some sort of tool that they can use within their business? Nice. Okay. Who feels like they are still behind with AI and there's still more to know? Nice, a few more hands up. Nice, but amazing. Okay, cool. Anyone want to share what they've built with one of their tools? Would you like to share what you built? Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Yeah, Holly, what have you built with your stuff?
We've talked about it before, but I've built my own custom bots in ChatGPT that do various different things.
Nice.
I call them my ladies.
Nice.
And they've got names.
Nice.
But it means that I can go into ChatGPT and go, can I talk to Marketing Billy or can I talk to Tutor Martina? And then they come up and I can talk to them.
Amazing. Good. Perfect. So, why should you listen to me before I get going? Might care about that. So I run an agency called Montaj Digital. We're an AI and automation implementation agency. What that basically means is we go into service-based businesses and help them buy back their time and make more money. So reduce admin overhead and essentially amplify their team and their workflow using systems, automations, and AI. We had a lead generation background, so a lot of what we were doing was lead generation, meta ads, Google ads, all of that kind of stuff. But we've been in this space since 2023, and it's obviously, as you all know, it's getting bigger and bigger. And I get so many questions around the building. I thought it'd be a great idea to share my knowledge for free with as many people as I could. So what I've noticed is there's so much information out there, and it's quite overwhelming. And what I wanted to do is give you some actual quick wins that you can actually take away today and implement into your business. So I'm going to run through those, and we're going to do a bit of a Q&A afterwards. So if you do have any like burning questions, if you could just write them down, make a note of them, and we'll get to all of those at the end. So why should you actually care, right? It's because data by McKinsey actually shows that with today's technology that actually exists in the world right now, over 50% of all reoccurring admin work that is being done, most likely by everyone in this room, is actually automatable with the tools we have access to, right? And the average worker, as everyone in this room probably knows, spends a vast majority of their week chasing emails, filling out spreadsheets, or just doing tasks that aren't really moving their business or their team's work forward. And based on our research, the average knowledge worker is spending 15 hours per week on admin. What does that mean? And it's a kind of two-sided problem. It's an employer problem and an employee problem. From the employee side, you're spending so much of your week on admin tasks that doesn't really move the business forward, and that kind of is just expected of you. That is very difficult for you to make a tangible impact on the business and show the value that you bring. And from an employer perspective, you're paying someone for 40 hours a week. Firstly, you can't expect any human to work full capacity for 40 hours a week. You know, us humans need to go to the toilet and eat and things like that, right? So you're not getting 40 hours anyway. On top of that, when they're spending 15 hours of that week on admin tasks, typically recurring admin tasks, they're actually eating into over 37% of their week. And let's just say we're being optimistic and say they only spend 20% of their week. There's still an entire day every single week spent on tasks that aren't moving the business forward, that aren't building client relations, that aren't making sales for the business. And how would you feel if one of the team members just disappeared for one day a week without letting you know, right? And it's a productivity issue. It's not really a productivity issue. It's more of a systems issue. A lot of this stuff there's a lot of systems and processes that can be put in place that alleviate a lot of this pain. But what happens with businesses, and what most people feel like is the common process for modern business when they grow, is this. As your business grows, as you take on more clients, your team gets busier, naturally. So you then bring in a new team member to kind of help with that pain, and that admin expands to fill the new capacity. But then your margins start to compress, so you bring in another person, and then your cost base just keeps going up and up and up, while your output per head either stays flat or it declines, because you've got then admin or operational overhead of managing a team and orchestrating a load of different tasks and keeping up with things. What that typically means is your most expensive people are spending 37.5% of their week on work that shouldn't require them. And it's not really a cost of growing your business like most people think it is, not in today's world with today's technology. It's actually a margin problem that can be fixed. And let's just think about with some simple numbers. If you're paying someone £50,000 to work for you, really that's not the cost of the business. When you add in pensions, benefits, taxes, all that other stuff, you're probably paying closer to £65,000. So you're spending 125% of someone's salary to get 62.5% of their output. So the numbers don't really make sense. But I'm not saying you should be firing any team or replacing them at all. And if you're sitting there thinking that, then you've probably got the wrong team member in the first place. Because what you should be thinking about is, how can I build these systems, processes, provide these tools and structure to actually amplify your team? Because I think a lot of people are scared that they're going to lose their job or they're going to be replaced by AI and whatnot. You won't necessarily, but there is someone out there who knows how to use AI, a business owner, an employee, a team member that does, and they are the ones that are coming for that capacity and that job. But the businesses that are getting this right, they aren't firing people, they're building these systems, and they're getting 2 to 5 times the revenue per head per employee. And that is all going straight to your margin and to your profit margins, right? And fine, it adds some overhead, but a few kind of tools and software costs is very minuscule when you compare it to a salary. Of course, you've got a strategy and the architecture to build those systems, but that's typically a one-time cost with some ongoing maintenance. This is what a team used to and kind of still looks like. And I've used a marketing agency as an example. You'd have a pod that essentially works on 20 clients. And in that pod, you might have a manager, and then an account manager for your clients, and then the designer and a media buyer. And their job together is to work on their 20 clients that are assigned to them. But what happens when you get a 21st, 22nd, 23rd client? It's not enough to justify hiring a full new pod, so you're going to likely push your team to their max capacity. It's going to lead to burnout, they're going to do a lot of mistakes, the quality of work is going to massively drop. Or you're going to overhire, and you're going to hire another pod for 25% of the team kind of capacity, and then you're kind of absolutely destroying your margins in a business sense, and especially a current landscape and economy that we're in now, where margin is quite hard to protect. And this is what a very simplified version, but this is what a assisted team should look like. As you can see, the same team are there, but there's an AI agent. And I've only put one there, but in reality, each team member would have their own set that would work alongside them. What that would allow them to do is buy back that 37.5, 40, 50, whatever the percentage is in your particular case, of admin time that is repetitive and reoccurring, and allow them to reallocate that time to winning more work, building out client relationships, and actually dealing with more clients. And being conservative, and I know this is the case because we've done it for ourselves as well as of our clients, you can then actually 3 times your capacity with the same team structure and the same team size. And you're more of an amplified team as opposed to a replaced team. So, by the end of this workshop, I don't just want to talk at you for the next half an hour. I want you to be sitting there and thinking, what is at least one thing you can take away and implement into your business or your work this week? And what we're going to run through is where AI can deliver the fastest results in your business, how to prioritize what to automate first, and then I'm actually going to run through a quick scoring framework that we use when we're auditing client of ours frameworks and automations, so you know what to tackle and how to tackle it. So where can AI actually deliver the fastest wins? There's 6 typical buckets that we see deliver the best and biggest results. So I just want you to have these in the back of your mind as we kind of run through this PowerPoint and think about the kind of unique cases of your businesses and your workflows. We have sales, customer success, operations, finance, HR and recruiting, and marketing and content. So, 7 quick wins you can implement this week. Starting with number 1, and I've been doing this for over 2 years, and I don't think I could go back. There's probably quite a few of you that have started to implement this or already implemented this. A lot of the big platforms, the Googles, the Microsofts and whatnot, they're quite pushing this now, but it's how you utilize it, and it's recording and transcribing every meeting. And there's a few of you guys here that are working on businesses in person. There's loads of apps on your phone that you can do the same thing, which we'll talk about as well. So, why is this so important? I now have a platform that lives in the cloud that has every single conversation I've had with every client, every prospect, and every team member. That means I can recall information. It means I can consolidate all of our information, draw key insights, and it means I can do some really cool things with that stuff, right? It also means, in theory, I shouldn't be forgetting anything, although it does happen sometimes. And I can essentially go to these tools. My preferred tool is Fathom. It's free and it's very comprehensive. And it just means that every single Zoom call, Google Meet, Teams call, whatever video call I'm on, it joins and it transcribes. And it's basically my own note taker. And it literally to the word, and it will know that Kai said this, John said that, Jack said this, for example. And then what I actually do with that information is I take all of the transcripts from sales calls and I can then synthesize that data to say, okay, what are the key pain points that prospects keep saying? I can then make content around those pain points. I can add those pain points and pre-engage with those points on a sales call before the prospect can even say it to me. So you kind of go, again, really deep understanding of your market. Even if you've been in your market for 20 years, the changes are kind of going and ongoing. You can always do things like list every action item and then draft up a follow-up, or what did Kai say that I need to work on again? And yeah, there's just so much power there. And you can plug it into other tools, which we'll speak about later on. And my preferred tool for the phone as well is just Easy Recorder. I think it's literally just called that. iPhone app, I click start, and it transcribes everything. Well, it records everything. You click transcribe, and it gives you the full transcript. I then just chuck it over to my documents, and I've got that full synthesis there, because I do take quite a few in-person meetings still. The next is dictate your AI and stop typing. What does that mean? It means I literally talk to my AI, right? And it looked a bit weird, I think, until a few people started clocking on to what I was doing. But I'd literally just be sitting there talking to myself in co-working or in my office. And what I'm actually doing is I'm talking to my Claude, my GPT, my other tools that I use. But why am I talking to it and not typing? It's because you can speak on average 3 times faster than you can write. And your AI models can contextualize what you're trying to say in a conversational manner. And you can give it context and key bits of nuggets that you might not have thought about when you're sitting there and thinking about actually, what am I going to write? What am I actually trying to achieve? Instead, I'll literally just press start and say, hey, so I'm trying to achieve X, Y, Z. I just got out of a meeting with this client and they told me this, this, this. Oh, by the way, I met them last week and I remember they said this, etc. And then it's just kind of will work out what I'm trying to do. And that basically means you get better input, which means you get dramatically better output. Because all AI models just require, they're only as good as the kind of information and data you give it. My preferred tool is Whisperflow, and that's because the transcription works on every device. My workshop at 2 o'clock today is actually running through the top tools that I use and how I amplify my workflow. So if you are free at 2 o'clock, come to that. But spoiler, that is one of them, Whisperflow. They're fantastic, but most of the everyday large language models that are on the market are building this into their features anyway, so you don't really need a tool like that necessarily. But please try this week and see how much better your output is compared to when you're trying to explain what you want. Number 3, connect your email to Claude. I've said Claude because Claude is my best friend at the moment, but yours might be ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever else you're using. And again, I break down all of those tools at 2 o'clock today and why I think certain ones are better than others. But what does that mean? I literally connect my large language model to my emails because, as you guys probably know, email is the bane of most people's lives, or Slack or whatever you use. Again, you can connect it to any kind of communication tool. And it kind of eats up a lot of my day, with replying to clients, making sure the team know what they're doing, finding things. And weirdly, we're halfway through 2026 and the search function on all email platforms are still awful. You can't find what you want when you type things in. And funny enough, my friend Josh, who's here today, he came over from Portugal and he booked on booking.com. He got all of the confirmation. They took the money out of his account. But when we were looking to check in, he couldn't find the email with the details on where to find the key and the login information and whatnot. So we went over to his Claude and we basically said, where's the confirmation email? We can't find it. And it flagged up that they'd sent over 10 emails, all marketing related, but there wasn't a confirmation email. So, like just little things like that, finding key bits of information, synthesizing information again, and drawing key points from your information is really powerful. Also, something we've done with a few of our clients is get your AI model to run through all of your emails and identify opportunities that you might have missed. So go through literally the last 4, 5, 6 years of your emails and highlight, are there any prospects we spoke to a few years ago that were interested, or they were a startup at the time that we could re-engage? And this has worked really well with a few of our clients in recruitment that have allowed them to identify a few really cool opportunities. And you literally just go into any of your platforms, go over to settings, integrations, and then connect it to Google or Microsoft, and voila. One thing I would say is don't be too worried about security side of things, just your email, your Claude or your ChatGPT sending off loads of random emails to people. It doesn't do that. It drafts them up for you, so you can basically just review your emails before anything goes off as well. And again, I hope that's getting your brain ticking on how you can do it, how you can use this. I mean, I was interviewing for a position recently, and a friend of mine had already interviewed for a similar one. He sent me over his candidates with the videos that they gave as their kind of pre-interview kind of questions. And I actually ran that whole spreadsheet through my Claude and said, this is the message I want everyone to know. Can you draft this up and see if they'd be interested in my position too? And that way I had sent out literally 30 emails within 5 minutes that were all personalised to the person because the spreadsheet row was clearly organised. So they're just a few quick use cases. The next one, and in my opinion, one that would probably unlock the most overall productivity in your business, is setting up reusable projects. Every single AI tool at the moment has the functionality of projects. And what that allows you to do is build silos or kind of groups of content and departments so that you don't have to keep restarting your conversations, recontextualizing your context, and almost building out like a brain almost for your business so that it starts understanding your business and your each separate function rather than assuming. AI models have literal access to every single piece of public information in the world. So when you ask them a question, they are going through all the information to find the most relevant information. If you instead tell it, this is the most relevant information, this is the context to our business, it can actually link that to your exact use case. You can give it instructions, you can provide knowledge, your best proposals, your kind of standard operating procedures, a background around the client, your relationship, what projects you've worked on in the past, and then it will actually reference that in conversations. All your history is stored as well within that. So if you use one particular one for operations and you're building out some sort of handbook maybe for your team, if you go back a month later, it will have all of that content in the project. So it can remember what you've done essentially, and it can either build up on to that same structure or it can reference. We have SOP 101 that could be linked to SOP 102, for example. And here are the 5 projects every business should build first. Told you I'm not just going to speak in general here, I'm going to give you the actual frameworks that you can take away and apply. Now, the foundation of every good system is the business master or the business brain. And this is an overview of you and your company, your tone of voice, your team structure, the foundation that everything is inherited from, kind of what you stand for. The list could go on, essentially how you build this out. Once you have that, you could then start building out the operations. So any checklists, any onboarding, any process documents, every single procedure that lets your brain and your business tick, this should then be added in as a separate silo. Then you want to be thinking about marketing. So your content, your campaigns, your social posts, so that it already knows everything and what's worked and what hasn't worked. So like I've got one for like our LinkedIn post, for example, and it's trained on all of our best performing ones. So it knows the exact structure, the hooks, the fact that I need to be using images so that I can get the closer to the best output as quick as possible, as opposed to keep rewriting. And it actually starts making your AI sound more human, or at least more like you. Then sales, the lifeblood of any business. But the only way you can have really strong sales arm is if you've got a really good understanding of your ideal customer, a really deep understanding of how your team works, and a really deep understanding of what your business actually is and what it does. And this as well, when I'm getting on with a call for a prospective client, I'll do my general research, but rather than flicking around to loads of different pages, and Instagram's fine, loads of different Instagram accounts, web pages, etc., I can go straight to one of my chats. It's preloaded with all my call prep, and I can start actually scanning their websites and start understanding what problems could they have, what other clients in my database do I have that are similar, that might tick the same boxes, what examples can I come ready with from our existing case study list, because we've got those preloaded in. And then what I'd be doing is actually building out one per client. So every email, report, and proposal produced inside the project, so that we already know where we are and what we have to do here, right? And in that way, every piece of information for that client could stay and build on, because if they come back and they want a second project or a third project or whatever it might be, we can just kind of pick up where we left off and we can see the key wins. And there's a lot more projects that could and should be built, but this is, in my opinion, if you haven't done any of this before, where you should actually be starting. Each of these projects, you give them something called a system prompt, and they're a set of instructions on how it should behave and it should act. I'll give these slides out afterwards anyway, but if you want to take a picture, feel free to. This is a very simple prompt. Again, when I give these out, I've got loads of documents and resources that you can take and read through, which will have a lot of this stuff, and actually exactly how I would build out these projects with step-by-step instructions, as well as prompts that you can swipe and deploy. But again, you'd be saying, my name is, I run business, describe the business in the location, give it as much context as possible. Even little things like this. Always write in British English, use short sentences, lead with the outcomes, not the process. Just little things about how you like to talk, for example. If I ask for options, give me 3. If my request is vague, ask me clarifying questions before I start. It's just making sure that your AI basically is working for you, not against you, basically. And what I'd be thinking about to upload and leave out, I'd be looking at uploading important documents. The more specific, the better. But things like process documents and standard procedures, right? Your best proposals and templates. Especially for you electrical guys, I'm sure your tenders and proposals can take a lot of time because you really need to do a lot of nuance and understanding. If you could preload a project with what a perfect proposal looks like, what information you need, you can actually get your project to interview you and ask you what questions you need, go ready, ask the client for those, and then input them back in, for example. And then your kind of proposal that would take maybe a whole day could then take an hour and a half and then a little bit of brushing up. Probably a lot more streamlined than that, but your brand and tone guidelines, any meeting transcripts that you think are important, any case studies and results. Again, we write a lot of kind of content, landing pages, etc. It knows all my case studies and results. So rather than pulling random case studies, it knows I got this result for this client. This is the process that we saved them. And I've just got these all neatly formatted. And another quick tip I don't have on this, when you do make these documents, make them on Word documents, Google Docs, whatever it is, but then save them as a file type called Markdown. And Markdown is the language that large language models speak. And humans find it hard to read because it's like code language, but your platforms can read that a lot better. So they don't have to break it down to read it. It's a bit like if you speak broken Spanish and trying to order a coffee in Spain, you might have to the first word and the last word, and you've got to figure out the rest. That's kind of what giving an AI model a document or a PDF is. But then giving it a markdown file is like speaking in fluent Spanish to it, so you both understand what you're trying to say to each other. And then also your service descriptions. What I'd be leaving out is sensitive information, basically. These platforms, especially the paid ones, they claim they don't train on your data, but better be safe than sorry, essentially, for that reason. Very long documents where only one section is relevant. A lot of people just chuck load of stuff at their AIs and think they're all being omniscient kind of things that can do everything. They've got certain context windows and they get confused. You might have noticed that before. They start making things up. They do something called hallucinating, which is how humans literally hallucinate, right? They make things up and they think they're right. If I needed to study for a test and I only needed one chapter in a 300-page textbook, I'd prefer my teacher just to tell me that you need chapter 3 rather than work it out for myself. And that's literally how the platform should work. Just take that section out and give him that section. And then also anything that changes week to week, don't give them that as like master context, because again, you're going to just confuse it. And any personal documents not relevant to the project. And a good kind of mindset I started getting in that I think's really helped me with my use of AI is to treat every single AI like a junior employee. That's really keen to do a really good job, but it's a junior, so it needs training, it needs hand-holding, it needs direction and guidance. So giving it as much context and guardrails as possible, you'll get the best outcome and you'll have the best experience in my opinion. So the fifth one is doing something called pull prompting. And what you're currently doing is, I'd imagine, is push prompting. And if you went to a presentation that I've done on this kind of topic in 2023, 24, 25, I would have spoken a lot about the importance on prompting because the AI models weren't very good at the time. Now they know what good prompts are, and you need to help it get to the answer. What a push prompt is, and these are very simple for example purposes, right? But you might go to your model and say, write me a proposal for a new client, here's all the context. And then AI will guess the service, the tone, and you'll get a very generic templated answer, right? Even if you give it context around kind of how we just spoke about. Or you might say, give me a marketing strategy, this is kind of what's worked in the past, and again, the same thing will happen. That's a concept that we call push prompting. You're pushing it to the direction. This is like if you had to get somewhere before Google Maps or Waze existed, and you had to open up a map and say, that's where I need to go. Let's figure out how we're getting there. You're telling the AI how to get there, right? The AI is better at getting to an outcome than you are. So you should be doing something called pull prompting. And what you want to do is invite the AI to do what you want, right? I need to write a proposal for a new client. Before you start, ask me clarifying questions. You need to do this well. That single sentence, if that's the only thing you learn today, make it be that. Because you might have noticed in the system prompt I showed earlier, that's how I said, if my information is vague, ask me clarifying questions. It will literally interview you and say, okay, what's this? Okay, what's that? Okay, what's that? And you answer it within the chat, and then you giving it the context rather than you sitting there thinking. And I actually stack all of these wins together, and I'm dictating at the same time to give that additional context. So I'm saying, this is what I'm trying to achieve. I want to write a proposal for a new client. This is what I learned. This is what they said their pain points are. Ask me clarifying questions. Ask me the questions, I then dictate back my answer. I fear I'm going to make co-working a lot louder with a lot of people talking to their AIs after this, but it's definitely going to make your life better, right? And that's a bit of a side-by-side if you guys do want to take a picture to show that's what a difference should be. And again, please bear in mind these are very bare bones prompts and examples, but that is kind of the push versus pull method. That is the open up a map and figure out how we get there. That is ways, this is where I want to go. Tell me the best route. Tell me that there's a road blockage there. Tell me that I forgot to give you this piece of information so I can give it to you and we can get there quickly. Essentially, that's how that works. Now, 6 is to turn your knowledge base into assets. So if you follow these in step by step, and they're not actually in order of importance or how I think you should be doing them, but if you are recording and transcribing every meeting, if you are connecting your emails to Claude, if you are setting up reusable projects, you're sitting on so much value in the business that is unbelievable. you have got so much knowledge there that can be turned into social media posts, FAQ videos, website pages, the decks, the list just goes on and on, right? What you should be doing is writing SOPs about how you work, turning documents into training, building out social media posts like I just said, and then plugging into Notebook LM for interactive training. If you don't know what Notebook LM is, I talk a lot about it at 2 o'clock today. Not to keep plugging that, I appreciate you guys have got lives and might not be able to come to that as well. But that, again, alongside Whisper Flow, is one of the biggest unlocks that I've had in the last few years, and it's a free tool, so definitely play around with that. And again, just more on this point as well, like just think about how you could be building out knowledge in your business and kind of recontextualizing that info. So the seventh and kind of final biggest win that I think you should be taking away after this is building your own personal assistant. Even if you have a personal assistant or you are a personal assistant, this will again just 10x your output and your workflow, in my opinion. And every single morning, Monday to Sunday, this workflow runs, which is very easy to do on Claude, and again, all these other models. Where I'm having my coffee, I can get ready for the entire day without kind of doing any prep. I have my Claude plugged into Notion, which we use for project management, for Slack, which I communicate with my team about all the different projects, for Gmail, which obviously I speak with clients and every other piece of information is there, Fathom, which is recording every single meeting I join, Google Drive, which is all our cloud files, our documents, our spreadsheets, everything that we run the business on. And then a system prompt. Again, the instructions I give to this particular model. What happens? 7 a.m., a task fires, and before anyone opens their laptop, it reads my emails, my Notion tasks, my Fathom calls, my Slack messages, and it synthesizes everything into a structured briefing. And I sit down with my coffee, usually it's a bit earlier than 7 a.m. to be honest for me, but knowing exactly what needs to be done. But you can make that any time you want, obviously. And this is exactly how it looks. This is the real example of what was sent to me at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, the 5th of May. It said, here are your top 3 today. You need to first resolve a 10 a.m. conflict, and I've obviously blurred out some client information here. But I had 2 calls that both started at 10 a.m. and it's told me, decide on which one you're attending and who should be covering the other call or rescheduling it. Luckily, I already had that one dealt with and one of my team members was joining the call I couldn't make. I then had a prospect reply yesterday confirming that Friday worked for a sales call, so I had to send a calendar invite before the day starts filling up. I then had to review my editor's video that he sent over, and you can see there, posted to #video-editing at 6:48. The top one was a calendar conflict, the second one was an email, the third one was a Slack message. I didn't tell it what order to do that in. It just was able to work out everything that had gone on the day before and the week before to work out what was still unresolved. And again, just to caveat this, and I'm going to go through what else this outputted, it didn't just output this. This only works if you've got structured data, whether that means you've got all of your files in one place or all of your communications in one place, right? You have to bucket up your information and make sure you get really disciplined on how you communicate. I appreciate it can be a bit hard when you're using things like WhatsApp when you're on sites and whatnot. But again, there are certain kind of habits you can get into that will help you get around that. What then happened was I had my schedule. And my schedule showed me all my calls for the day. So I had my daily huddle with my team. I then had a catch up with a client. I had a weekly performance marketing review with another client. I had a monthly review with my online coach. I had a website meeting with one of our prospects. I had another weekly catch up with another client. And I had our monthly one-to-ones with both my team members. And it said here there's a conflict between 10. Make sure that you're delegating this, right? This is really cool. But it's not perfect. And that is how you should be using your tools and understanding. It said that for multiple marketing catch-ups, multiple one-to-one monthly meetings with my team, that no prep was required. It's obviously wrong. I did need to go prepared, whatever that meant. I need to thought about have Ibrahim and Helen hit their KPIs the last month? How did this kind of last 2 weeks of results go for my client? Have we actually got the proposal ready for our website prospect? So what I actually then did was, based on this information, I iterated and went back and adjusted the system prompt to say, this is the kind of thing that needs preparation. So if you're ever unsure, ask me questions if that does or doesn't require prep. And that just kind of shows how you're using AI in real time. It's not perfect. and you need to work with it. It then showed our morning tasks and our afternoon tasks. You need to do all of these in this priority, and you need to do all of this. Resolve conflict, send a calendar invite, make sure that the Google ads are paused, review the animation, chase a client for a reply, quick prep for monthly review, follow up with a proposal that we sent out, approve some campaign copy, confirm next steps, etc., etc. And as you can see, there we go. As you can see, that kind of showed everything there. It's really cool. It then broke down my specific team members' tasks, so that when I join our team huddles every morning, I always go prepared anyway, but let's just make sure that I have everything. Well, Ibrahim said that their case study page was ready yesterday and the edits were done, so let's open that up and run through it, make sure that Ibrahim comes prepared with that. We discussed in DM yesterday regarding a video project, so I just need to make sure that he was ready on what asset he needed. Also, just to remind him, we have our call at 3 p.m. today to go through, make sure you've got all of your kind of KPIs ready and to discuss what's gone on for the last month. Helen had to do all of these tasks. And as you can see, you just go prepared and synthesized. And this, again, not perfect, but it does mean that there's a lot less load on my head that's needed. And I think about this a bit like, ever since I've been driving, Waze and maps have been a thing. So I don't really know how to get to a lot of places, right, off the top of my head. But it allows me to use my brain for other things. It's just one less thing that I need to think about. And it means I can use the added capacity and time to apply it to other things. That's how you should kind of be using these things, yeah. Broke down a work completed in the last 24 hours and then a watch list. So you can see how you can mold this and adjust your system prompt to your unique capability. Your business is very different to mine, so it might require different action points, different handoffs, different team structures. But it's just giving you the kind of frameworks to go away and apply to your business. So you should now be AI ready, in theory. There are 7 quick wins that you can take away and implement. And again, these will be shared afterwards. But quick wins, they're just the start. They're quick for a reason. You should be able to swipe and deploy them. But quick wins will get you started, but systems will actually get you to scale your AI use and therefore your business. So how do you actually go beyond quick wins and start building proper systems? Because that's all AI is. AI has been a thing for 30, 40 years, right? It's just only publicly been accessible since ChatGPT really came out a few years ago. So here are 5 easy steps on how to turn a quick win into a system. Step 1 is you want to start with a high value process. Where's a process in your business that is extremely important? Then you want to look at building out a flow chart and mapping each handoff point, so you can actually automate the repetitive tasks and see where you need a human's interaction. And again, one of our workshops on Friday is all about process mapping and understanding where things should be handed off, what is an automatable task, and what task shouldn't be automatable. Because there's a lot that you shouldn't be applying AI to, and a lot of people are, and you can tell. You then want to run weekly feedback loops and review your outputs. So like you saw, that kind of coffee breakdown, that coffee morning breakdown task that I've got, fantastic. But there was a big flaw that it kind of missed a lot of the prep steps. So I had to go back and iterate and make better. I then want to track the core metrics. So I need to measure, did it save me time? If so, how much? Did it reduce cost? If so, how much? Or increase revenue? That's kind of two in one, I would say. How consistent was the output? Because if one time it popped it out and it was really, really good, if another time it was rubbish, and if another time it was completely different to the other 2, then there's something wrong there, and that's not a good process. And then what is the kind of macro return on investment that's given to you, your business, or your team's time? And then you just want to keep scaling what works, essentially. So you want to replicate successful workflows across your departments and just see how you can apply things and kind of amplify things. And this is actually a real example of how I managed to buy back around 16 hours per week from my media buyer on my team. So this was an actual process that we went through. We were running a lot of Meta and Google ad accounts at the time. And what she would do is every Tuesday morning, she would log into our client tracker. She would see which clients are live. She would rely on her memory to see if any clients have turned off or started. And then she would determine which platform each client was running on. Was it Google? Was it Facebook? Was it Instagram, etc.? And then she would individually pull out 10 different metrics from each one. She would then manually input that data into a spreadsheet, and then she would write a performance report and compare it to the last week. She would then draft an email to a client, She'd Slack me and say, Kai, it's ready for you to review, make sure everything's all good. There'd be a few mistakes because she's human and that's normal. And then I would review, edit and send. This part of the business I need to be stepping away from and focusing on other bits. So this is pulling me in for a few hours every week. There was a repetitive task going on every single week. There was errors in the task and it was a manual process. This was a super high leverage. So I built out a workflow and automation to do this. This looks scary and it probably is a bit scary to a few people. But basically it's an automation that runs every 6 hours or when I manually pull it. And basically what it does is it goes over to Airtable, which is where all of our client accounts live. It then processes each account that's linked to each client. It then goes, as you can see, a Google gate and a Meta gate. It goes onto our Google account. It finds their credentials. It sees if there's any campaigns live. And then if they are live, it adds them to our tracker. If they've been paused since the last run, it will then pause them on our tracker. And it will do the same thing on Meta. And it will keep running every 6 hours to make sure that our information is always accurate and always up to date. What we could then do off the back of that is pull those insights, and once we know what client account is live at what time, we could then run another similar automation to pull all the metrics out for us because it's just moving data from A to B. And technology is a lot better at moving data from A to B than humans are. And what used to take 8 to 16 hours now takes literally 30 minutes every week. And that 30 minutes is even exaggerated, to be honest, because I open up and check the output. Is that good? Is there anything extra that I need to add that wasn't contextualized in this particular workflow? And then literally that process is now entirely off our hands. I can spend more time on strategy and client work. Helen can now reallocate her time to managing more clients. Going back to how we started, rather than spending 8 to 16 hours a week on managing this process, she's now got 8 to 16 hours worth of capacity that I can now redeploy into other clients. So this is a bit more of an overview of the 4 metrics that you want to track from day one. Time saved. Does it reduce cost or increase revenue? How consistent is your output? And does it have tangible return on investment to you and your business? And again, of course, everyone in here are either working or own a business. These can be applied to daily kind of tasks to make your own life better too. I like going to the gym, eating healthily, and I also like kind of reading and stuff, but I also know that those tasks sometimes don't get done if I don't track them. So I build a lot of these kind of systems around my own personal life too, just less things to think about on a daily basis, which I love. But again, I've given you 7 quick wins. I've told you how to build systems, but you're probably sitting there thinking, I've got this problem, that problem, that problem, where do I even start? There's so many different avenues you can go down. So I built a framework that you can take, and again, I'll be sharing a spreadsheet with you afterwards, simple spreadsheet that will help you buy back more time in your business. And it scores across 5 key criteria. And these 5 key criteria are criteria that I think are the most important to understand whether a task can and should be automated. And they're also weighted slightly differently based on my experience of what a good process is or isn't. And these 5 criteria are time saved, literally how many hours does this take me or my team per week? Revenue impact, could automating this grow or protect revenue? Protecting revenue is almost as important as growing revenue. How often does this go wrong manually? If it goes wrong manually quite often, like that reporting task, is probably something that we should be considering. How rule-based is this? If A plus B equals C, this is a process that could be automated, right? If there's a high variance in the task, we shouldn't really look at automating necessarily, okay? And then how feasible is this with our current tools? With technology, in theory, anything is possible and you can build almost anything. However, if it's extremely complex, it becomes extremely expensive and time consuming. Does the cost outweigh the benefit? It might not, right? So that's something that you need to be thinking about. Or are there off-the-shelf tools that can be used? That would be a 10 out of 10, for example. A happy medium would be building out your own automation or your own set of rules. But again, to someone like me, like that's kind of bread and butter. So a lot of tools that processes that you think might not be repeatable and automatable or feasible are. What happens is this gives you a total score out of 85. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, you've got 5 buckets and they each 10. 10 times 5 is 50, you're right. But like I said at the start, they are weighted. And for example, I weight time saved at a 2x multiple. I weight revenue impact at a 2.5 times multiple. I weight error and quality risk at a 1.5 multiple. Repetitiveness, I think that is just 1 multiple. And a feasibility is 1.5 multiple. What you can do is you can start filling out this spreadsheet, which again I'll be showing at the end of this presentation, to essentially put your processes, sit down with your team and say, okay, let's run through a process. Reporting, sales follows up, like pipeline building, filling out spreadsheets for project management, whatever it might be, and then just talk openly about this. What will happen is the spreadsheet will add up all the weighted scores and give you a score at the end, and it'll give you a recommendation. You either automate it now if it has a score of 70 or more. You plan to build it, but not necessarily the biggest priority if it gets a 40 to a 69 score. Or you might want to revisit it later if it's less than 40. And then what it'll do is it'll flag the highest priority workflow and it'll actually tell you this is the one you should be focusing on. And that is like the biggest kind of team exercise you could be thinking about as well. So that is a rundown of everything, and I hope that you actually got some tangible value from that. If you do scan this QR code, you will have access to everything I've spoken about. I'll be sending over the presentation for all 6 workshops, the video recording for all 6 workshops. There's more than 3 resources as well that are completely separate and not touched on in any of the workshops, as well as everything else I've spoken about. So yeah, if you just can scan that, and thank you so much for your time. I really hope that you found it useful. And what I want to do now is spend some time asking some questions and delving into some problems. Thank you. Thank you.
I've found the best way to use it is sort of replacing the standard software that you get sold. So you can make like real bespoke softwares to your company.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've really struggled with is like the connectors and stuff.
Yep.
So Supabase and stuff like that. Do you have any like bespoke plans where I can pay you to come into my business and sort of do that all for me? Because I can learn it, but once you've got it all set up, you don't really need to relearn it because it's all set up on your Claude.
Yeah.
But you would be able to do it much quicker than I do. So do you have like any bespoke plans that can like obviously like one-to-ones and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so how our business works is we have kind of 3 buckets on how we go in and help other businesses. What our first bucket is we actually go in, build out all the automations and the workflows on the business's behalf, identify all the key wins in like sprints and automate. We kind of aim to automate 6 to 10 key processes within the first 90 days, which will obviously buy back time. That's much more of a, you tell us what your biggest problem is, we'll audit your business, we'll understand what the biggest problem is, and we'll actually execute on your behalf. We also offer more like one-to-one or hourly-based consultancy, where again, you might say, I've got 80% of the way there, how can you help us get to that 20%? We work out how long that'll take and we just work on that basis. And then we also do where we go into like more bespoke training. So this workshop was obviously quite general. I knew there was going to be a few different levels of kind of competency when it comes to AI use, but we actually will build out a bespoke package for you and your business. Again, we do a very deep understanding of what you kind of want to achieve, and we actually go in and train you on those tools. So yeah.
Where would I find it?
Yeah, so if you scan this, and I've got some cards afterwards, on our website, you could be able to contact us, Montaj Digital, montaj.io. Also, if you scan that QR code there, sorry, a lot of QR codes, there's a free quiz, which is basically like, it asks you 6 questions, and it will basically tell you kind of what stage you're at, and it will allow you to book in a call through there. So if anyone is interested in that, then yeah, you can book in a call. Or you can just grab me afterwards. I'll be around. Obviously, I've got another one at 2:00, so I'll be around in between that gap. Happy to talk about your actual problems and see kind of where we could help potentially. Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Yep.
Yeah, like I said at the start, I've been using GPT mainly for validation of the intelligence I've put together, and it's been really useful. But I've been hearing more and more about Claude.
Yep.
I haven't launched it yet. How does Claude differ from ChatGPT? How can I use that for what I'm doing, which is basically market intelligence?
Yeah, great question. You're gonna have to come to 2:00 for that. Sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. Yeah, we do talk about that a lot at 2, but how they're basic. they're a bucket that I call everyday AI. So they are Anthropic, who own Claude, OpenAI, who own ChatGPT, Google, who own Gemini. They're building their own foundational models. And what they're doing is they are each developing their own models that work very similar to like a Google and a Yahoo. They essentially do the same thing, but they excel at others, right? But right now you're in a bit of an AI arms race, in my opinion. It's like an AI Cold War almost. Like they've all got infinite budgets. They've all got very, very intelligent people. They're all moving to the different department for share options and whatnot. So they're all essentially becoming very, very similar tools. Today, Claude is the best. Tomorrow might be OpenAI, might be ChatGPT again, might be Gemini, might be Kai AI. One day, you never know, right? So to answer that question, I would build out the knowledge bases like we spoke about, build out files about what you're trying to achieve with very clear system instructions and very clear objectives and information, and build almost like a bit of a brain around the business, right? Again, I'll talk about that a bit later on, how you can do that. And then I'd be plugging in and trialing different things. Claude is very good at the moment because they have a lot of extended capabilities. ChatGPT is a chat, literally. Claude allows you to build out dashboards within the app very easily, called artifacts, where you could basically build out literally within the chat. Like I built, in the demo at 2 o'clock, I built a KPI tracker where I literally show a video of me giving it a prompt and it builds a tracker in my dashboard where I can track my hours worked and stuff. And it will then show it based on the weeks. So you could use it like that potentially. Deep research, again, is very similar, but you can give it access to your Chrome so it can go onto different tabs on your behalf. And also it does something called co-work, where you can give it actual whole files that you have on your desktop or your MacBook or your Google Drive, and it can work within those files and actually create documents and spreadsheets and then reorganize them for you. So that's probably how. Their context window is very big as well, which means they can take a lot more information. But for research, have you heard of Perplexity?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, Perplexity is fantastic. So Perplexity is, again, it's in the second category, which I call search and synthesis, right? Where it doesn't have their own foundational model, but it's taken Meta's Olama model and adapted it to its specific use case. That can basically search all information and categorize them and cite them very, very well. So I'd probably use that as a first basis point to hone in your research and then go over to ChatGPT or Claude. Does that kind of answer your question as well?
Yeah, very useful. Is the session later being recorded?
It is indeed, yeah. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Again, you can pick my brain anytime you want as well, but yeah, I'll definitely be doing that. Cool. Holly?
So I work with a lot of clients that have quite a lot of private information because
Thank you.
I'm working with a lot of students that are underage.
Yep.
And a lot of them don't want me to use AI because they're worried about that information going in, etc.
Yep.
So how do I use AI to my advantage but get around the kind of privacy that's needed for those kind of clients?
Great question. There's two kind of ways you could probably do that. One is not feasible, but it's quite cool. You could build your own kind of personal own AI model, which would be quite cool. Like you could actually build, like again, if you're a big company, like doing a couple million a year, and you want to have an internal database, like that is possible to do. Build your own kind of hardware and open source model, right? Wouldn't recommend that, but just cool. Honestly, the most basic way I'd say doing it is just take out sensitive information, name, emails, phone numbers, whatever that might be, and just swap them out with dummy ones. Like literally, if the name's Kai, just change it to Kyle or something like that.
How does that work with, for example, so if I was plugging Claude to my emails, but my emails are containing private student information, how do I make it not take that information?
It's a good point, yeah. It's quite hard to plug in the tools how we're talking without doing that. But again, a lot of the paid models, if you go into settings, you can ask them not to train on your data. So ChatGPT auto opts you in. So if you do use ChatGPT, by the way, go to your settings and make sure you uncheck the auto opt-in to train on your data if you're paying for it. Whereas a lot of the other kind of enterprise tools, they shouldn't be doing that. Other than that, right now, it's quite hard to do that.
If I actively told clients, I've made sure that these models are not training on my data, we're excluding as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Do you think that would reassure them?
Yeah, and also I'd probably update any terms and conditions potentially to say that you do use AI as well, just for that sense. But again, like I think it's important to articulate to your clients that it's going to add value to your students, and yeah, that's the best thing I'd say. Bit of a harder answer that one. But any other questions? Yeah.
So do you do
correct, on Amazon,
Yep.
TikTok Shop, eBay, you name it, and Shopify. But I'm finding it quite overwhelming dealing with everything.
Yep,
at once.
I bet, yeah.
So do you like offer any sort of services to help with my sort of situation?
Do you have admin that you spend a lot of time doing? That's repetitive?
Yeah, I mean, checking stock, just updating, like marketing, just everything. I'm literally.
Yeah, then yeah, but yeah, yeah, 100%. Again, like I mentioned to Ben at the end there earlier, how we help, we can come in on a one-to-one basis and just help consult and push you in the right direction and help you learn the skills, or we can do some more in-depth training on that. But again, there's some really like easy wins that don't seem necessarily easy, because like how many SKUs have you got?
I mean, I've got one main product.
Yep.
It's doing really well.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my main focus really. So
Cool.
it's not really like hundreds. It's just one.
No, that's fine. Because I was going to say, again, if you've got your data nice and kind of grouped and siloed, you can start using a lot of these models to do market research on your behalf, to help you write copy. Again, later on today, sorry, I keep teasing later on, it's just because they're both fresh in my head. We kind of run through how you can use one of the tools to basically scrape the internet for inspiration. So not to do your thinking for you, but to collate the inspiration and the content to kind of base your content ideas off of. But also you could kind of download your data again and give the data for like your last 12 months and see where your wins and where your kind of losses in terms of months, and see where you can kind of add value there. Also from a lead generation perspective as well, we were a lead generation only agency to begin with, running meta ads, Google ads, and building landing pages and whatnot, like conversion rate optimization. With AI now, you can build lots of different angles and lots of different creatives. Do you run any ads?
On Amazon.
Yep.
I'm going to soon start running ads on Meta.
Yep.
And I currently run on TikTok Shop.
Cool.
Yeah.
Does anyone in here run meta ads, or have they ever run meta ads before? Yeah. Through me, yeah. No? Cool. Fine. So just if everyone ever does look at meta ads, firstly, you should. They're very powerful, even for a B2B sense. Like, I think a lot of B2B companies think they shouldn't be running meta ads because who spends time on Instagram and Facebook? But everyone does, trust me. One of our clients, a wealth manager after high net worth individuals, and we were getting booked calls with people who had 50 to 100 million pound net worth through meta ads. Like, as in it's possible, and they were closing them as well. So we had really well thought out ads and landing pages and whatnot, and then follow-up sequence. That's just a misconception I think a lot of people have with meta ads. But on that, my point on that is they had a new feature called Andromeda, which is like a new update, which basically rewards creative volume as opposed to changing. Like, it used to be A/B test by changing a color or changing one word. You now need to be doing completely different concepts when you're testing in these algorithms. So you could spin up automations and AI models where you could get inspiration, plug in the inspiration, spin up your own version, and then hand it off to a designer to then make it look 10 out of 10. That's one really cool thing you could be doing. Also, do you get a lot of kind of emails come through, like customer support ones?
Not really.
You must have a good product.
Amazon I don't really get any customers or anything like that.
Fine. Well, if you do start scaling the products and the SKUs and whatnot, and you do get more and more messages, that could be a quick win as well. Building out something that flags when you've had an email and actually draft up the email based on your knowledge base. So I'd be thinking a lot about those kind of. I'd be sitting down and actually taking some time to think, what task do I do every single day that's repetitive? Reconciliation and accounts would be a good one. Again, you could use a lot of AI for that. Content inspiration, filling out spreadsheets potentially. Stock checks, how do you do that now?
Well, I've just only recently gone to the manufacturers because I used to do it from home, but it's exploded. So
Nice,
I've got
well
the
done.
manufacturers doing it for me.
Cool.
So that's going to be another, I guess, learning curve of how I'm going to keep tracks of it. It's all of those things.
Cool.
I guess, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'd be thinking off the top of my head, but happy to sit down and chat in a bit more detail as well afterwards if you want to have a think about how we could help.
Yeah, because I've been using like ChatGPT since 2022?
I think it was around more 2023, 2022, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, I've been using it for like years now, so I sort of know
how to use like AI, but I think because there's so many different AI softwares, it's just marrying them together to just do all my tasks. That's what I find really overwhelming.
Think of AI tools like tools in a toolbox, right? You have hammers and you have, well, you just maybe a better one. You have a drill and you have a power drill, right? They both are very good at certain things, but you wouldn't use a power drill to put a small screw into a very delicate piece, and you wouldn't use a little drill to put into a hard surface, right? My dad's got a construction company, but I didn't listen much, so that might have been very bad. But you need to use tools for specific tasks, and I wouldn't add a tool to your toolbox unless it actually solves a pain point. So I'd actually be very be very cautious to keep adding in, because a lot of them overlap, and a lot of them do the same thing. So more thinking kind of what systems and processes can you put in place that helps you get the most out of them. So I'll be thinking. But again, there's loads of creative-based ones. Again, later today, I'm going to be talking about how I use a lot of the creative tools to mock up. I've got a UI UX designer that works for me full time, but we've been able to turn briefs from like a few hours where I give him my kind of big thoughts to here's a mock-up of what I really, really like. This is what I was trying to articulate, but you're obviously really hard for me to articulate. Use that. That's what I want. These are 3 concepts. Now do your magic. And like, honestly, the way that I can quickly show concepts is unreal. So yeah, that's what I'd be thinking too. Nice. Thanks for the question. Any other questions? Yeah.
I've just started a new company,
Mm-hmm.
so there's no legacy
Good luck.
data. It's a brand new, fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to use one AI tool, like you mentioned Claude a lot,
Yep.
would it be a paid Claude version to start integrating building in this way?
Yeah,
At this moment in time.
yeah, I'm actually envious that you're starting a new business because you can do it properly from the start.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I've just signed up to all of them.
yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I'd pick one everyday AI tool, and again, you have 3 options there. Typically, you've got Claude, Gemini, or ChatGPT. Personally, I think Claude's the best right now. But what I'd be thinking about are what departments are relevant. And I know, are you starting just by yourself right now?
No, starting to employ people.
Oh, nice.
Literally, we've got a team of 4 now.
Oh, nice.
That will grow.
Amazing.
That literally we're a 1 month in, so we're starting out.
Amazing.
So
Cool. So
it's fresh.
perfect. So I'd be thinking about like what key departments and areas need to be siloed first. So again, take those 5 that I mentioned, build them out. Because you're a completely new company, I would be using deep research functions on whatever the tool you pick to scan the internet, to build out your competitors, to run SWOT analyses on them, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and then build your positioning on those is what I'd be doing. And I'd get something called, I'd get like a 1-pager that basically explains your business and what you want to achieve and who you help, and get really clear on that. And that's kind of how I'd start. But yeah, personally, if I was you, I'd go look at Claude. But just structure your data in a way that is clear. And have you picked like, are you using Google or Microsoft?
Well, at the moment we're using Teams, integrated Teams throughout the business because
Yep.
it's a sister company. Everything's on Outlook.
Fine.
So it's Microsoft based.
Yeah, cool.
But there's still flexibility there.
Fine.
Myself, but the infrastructure, the building, and the systems are predominantly Microsoft based.
Okay, fine. I need to understand a bit more about what you're building to see if it would connect. No, that's that's fine. Perfect. No, because I was going to say, like for me, Google. Again, I say it later, but Google's the best value for money right now because for £10 a month, you get an email, you get 2 terabytes of data storage, you get docs, slides, sheets, you get Gemini, you get Notebook LM, you get Flow, you get all these different tools basically that you can kind of plug and play into. So that's what I'd be looking at, and they connect really well with everything else. But again, they're agnostic, they're one in the same. But yeah, I'd pick one everyday AI tool, silo out your data, and start planning repetitive processes from the start and see what you can automate. And
So for example, at the moment, a paid Claude subscription is well worth.
on 100, I think like if you can afford to, having like play around with all of them for a month, and like because they're £20 a month each, like that shouldn't, like when you think about how much time it would save you. Yeah, it's definitely good value for money. Yeah, so I'd be playing around with a few different ones. But again, pick one everyday AI tool, play around with them. They're all very, very similar though. That's what I will say. I'll caveat that. But they've all got very similar interfaces. But for me, Claude does all the things I needed to do.
And that integrates with Outlook, Teams.
Everything, yeah. You can build custom bridges called MCPs between different tools. A bit more technical and very difficult to keep the data safe if you don't do it properly. But like we've helped people connect their CRM to their Claude that has no native integration, but you can build a bridge between them so that it can plug into your CRM. It can scan all your opportunities, who's outstanding, who needs to be followed up with. So yeah, Claude can do that. But so a lot of the tools you can build those bridges, but that works the best, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Just follow up to that, where do you build the bridges in the workflows? Like where, because you showed us a flowchart.
Yeah.
Where was that?
There's a few different tools. So that particular one was N8N. N8N. That was a bit more of a, that's more of an advanced one. The one I ran on Claude was a skill that I built within my Claude, where basically it was a scheduled skill where I basically gave it the instructions and said at 7 a.m. every day do this, and then I trained it on that, and it was worked as a project folder. So within Claude again, you can do a lot of these scheduled tasks that are quite straightforward.
So you'd say that's more beginner?
Yeah. Again, that works conversationally. There's no coding needed. You say, this is what I'm trying to achieve. How do I get there? Tell me what to do, and then you can build that skill. Yeah.
Do you think Manus is a good start because it does all these connectors for you?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work as well as Claude, so people can sort of test what they can sort of get out of Manus, and then go, well, I can do all that, but when you have to invite third parties and stuff to it, Claude is obviously the much better one. Once you build that up yourself, you don't need any of the connectors.
Yeah.
So would you say Manus is something that you should potentially start with, see what functions you can do, and then potentially transfer to Claude?
Yeah, so I speak about Manus later as well. I see Manus as more of an autonomous agent as opposed to an everyday AI tool. Because again, it's built on a foundational model. So Manus, for those of you who don't know, was acquired by Meta for $2 billion in December. Meta own Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, loads of other stuff, right? So they can plug into all those tools. But also their model is amazing at doing things for you. So you can literally give it access to your computer and it will run for you. One of the resources will have a link to that as well on the sign up stuff. But yeah, I think to build up visual dashboards, but also I still use it for specific tasks, like fetching information and building out spreadsheets for me.
Would you say, and that was what I was going to ask as well, would you say Manus is better for searching for information than Claude?
Yeah, right now I would say so. I'd say it's much better at actually the agentic side of things going away, but you've also got Claude Code and Claude Cowork, which is really good at that too. So
I'd look at Manus more as like a designer or a product thing, and then Claude is if I want to connect a load of emails and automate it afterwards, use that.
yeah, Manus you could do that too though. So yeah, that's the thing with Claude. Like Claude's such a big suite of products now. Like they've got Claude Design, Claude Cowork, Claude Code. They've got the in-chat features. Like I could sit here and speak about Claude, not as a fanboy, but like literally as a training for like 10 to 12 hours straight, and you'll still be scratching the surface. Like that is a very big skill in itself to understand how and when to be using Claude. It's super important as well. So yeah, that's kind of, yeah, to answer your question, they're both really good, I would say. But yeah, what you're saying is definitely right, and I think the way you've used it as well is a good way to kind of play around and mock up things. Because that's how I see a lot of this stuff, by the way. Like, especially when you're a smaller business, a leaner team, you might not have thousands to build out custom solutions. You should be using these to like build out your first version, your minimal viable product. Then you can bring it to someone like me who knows what I'm doing to basically get to the answer a lot quicker. And rather than spending a lot of that time, you can kind of build that time out together and mock things up. So, yeah. Any questions, anyone? No? Cool. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed and found it useful. Okay. Thank you so much.
Sign up for your 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like?
Yeah. Feel free to pop in. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll be similar sort of time. Yeah, I mean, they've got a card there as well if you want to just scan it. It's all website and stuff. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I've signed up to all of them.
Amazing. I'll see you there. Thank you. Thank you, man. Was that right? Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Thank you, man. Thank you.
you did say that it was what AI is.
Yeah. I know. That was. I wanted everyone to have their hands up. Thank you.
Killed it.
Was it good? Yeah.
Yeah, you did really good. Q&A's class.
Nice. Cool. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Yeah, I'm building right at the moment. Michael and
No, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Pardon? Thank you.
Really good.
Appreciate that.
Teaching 2 pence, you did great. You were
Thank
really
you.
clear, you were easy to follow, the slides were good, and the fact that you were awesome.